course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams.
Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast that feels like you're chatting with friends. I'm one of your friends, Dave, joined as always by our other friend, Ike. Ike, how are you?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. Eating some hard candies like a 78-year-old woman.
Yeah, well, everybody got to be doing something.
That's true.
On this week's episode, we're going to be doing something. We're going to be doing plenty of something, and including a review of Screambox's Lizzie Lazarus, which is just out, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. Before we dive into all the fun, Ike, did you watch anything else this week?
Yeah, not nothing crazy. Obviously, we watched Lizzie Lazarus. Well, I did check that out, of course, as it is the movie we're reviewing this week. Other than that, I finished my watch through of the Breaking Bad series, and I started the Better Call Saul show. Never seen that one. It's quite enjoyable. Otherwise, more horror oriented. I started watching Dexter, um, which is about a serial killer who kills killers. So, I mean, that's horror adjacent, but it's really good. It's actually really good. We started actually probably around the time that we recorded our last episode, and we're already on season two. Me and Kayla are so enjoying it quite a bit so far. But we'll see how it goes. There's 8 seasons.
Yeah. Let's see. What did I watch? The only thing I watched that would at all fit into our little trope would be I did watch that movie Getaway, the new Nick Frost movie we had spoke about.
Oh yeah,
Um, and I will say it is head and shoulders, worlds beyond better than what Black Cab or whatever that was. It was a fun little movie. This was much more fitting of a Nick Frost horror comedy type thing, and this one worked. And had a nice little swerve twisty thingy in it that I didn't really see coming there for a bit, and was a good fun little watch. So I advise people to go watch it. It was fun. And I can't remember what that's on. I think maybe Shudder. I want to say Shudder.
I think so.
Yeah. So I don't want to commit to that, and I apologize if it's the wrong platform, but I do believe it is Shudder. So all right, then let's move on. Order up.
Here's one house special cheesy slasher. Enjoy.
And it's time for our cheesy slasher of the week. This is where we talk about a movie that is, we use the term cheesy, but, that kind of fits maybe low budget, underappreciated, underperforming, however you want to say, not your blockbusters.
Right.
And this week we're keeping with the whole, what's the word I'm thinking of, resurrection theme with Lizzie Lazarus, and we're going to talk about Pet Sematary 2. That's right, there was a sequel to the original Pet Sematary. It was written by Richard Oughton, directed by Mary Lambert, starring Edward Furlong, Anthony Edwards, Clancy Brown, and more. There's some name value there in the cast. Released August 28th, 1992. Anthony Edwards was a big guy in 1992 around that time with in Top Gun. He was going to be was already or going to be in ER. So Clancy Brown, it was, he's kind of a name. Anyway, the movie grossed $4,825,100 domestically on opening weekend. Good for number three. Now it must have drastically fell off after that because I looked and it only totally grossed just slightly over 8 million in all. So it didn't do much else beyond that. And, the movie is described as a teenage boy and his father move to his recently deceased mother's hometown, where they encounter the ancient Native American cemetery with the power to raise the dead. Now, there are no character ties to the first. It is the same town, but otherwise that's it. There's lots of little what we call now Easter eggs within it. You see the home from the first one. You see some things that reflect back to the first one, but there are no characters. I did hear that Mary Lambert, who directed it, excuse me, and Richard Oughton, who wrote it, really wanted the one female character who survived the first movie to be in this one. And the production company said, nope, we don't think this movie can be carried by a female lead. So there you go. What way to be sexist, 1992. And so that didn't happen. So they just went with a whole new thing. And if I've seen this movie, I don't recall it, and it has been a while. But considering that I don't hear it talked about much, and I think it flies under the radar, if a lot of people don't even realize there actually was a sequel, I just don't think it was all that great. And considering that it grossed almost 5 million on opening weekend, and then only grossed another 3 million the rest of the run, that might be kind of telling. So there you have it. If you're in the mood for some further expansion of the Pet Sematary universe, you can go check out Pet Sematary 2, the sequel to the original Pet Sematary. And one thing I do like about it is there is as in the first movie, there is a Ramones song at the end of the movie in the outro. So like in the first movie, they used, of course, Pet Sematary, which they wrote for the movie. But in the second, it was the song Poison Heart. So at least there's that. That there's some redeeming quality to it, I guess. So, all right, then let's move on. Talk to us, Internet. And it is time for Talk to Us, Internet. This is where Ike and I either respond to listener feedback, which, guys, we get some listener feedback, but there's not really a lot of that we can respond to, right? You guys are telling us, oh, good job, great job. Oh, I like this, whatever. But give us something that we can work with here. I mean, come on, you can't agree with everything we say. You've got to have some other opinions and thoughts. We're not trying to start an argument. Damn, give us something to talk about. So until you do, we have to go digging around social media to find something else that people are talking about, which is what we did on this episode. I recently saw a discussion on X, which is typically where I find these weird ass discussions. It just seems like X is just full of weird ass shit. So, where someone had said something about that Scream 6, the latest Scream, did suffer because it had no major character kills. And that was something that maybe helped it to kind of be underwhelming. And Ike, what do you think of that take?
Honestly, so my initial gut reaction is that that's bullshit. Because I don't think that the quality of a film should be or could or would be, maybe. I don't think it should be predicated on the death of a major character. I think that it felt natural to kill off Dewey in the prior installment. But killing off another major character, especially with the, I guess, the quality of the killers in this movie, perhaps was not a great move. So I understand why they didn't do it. I don't think this movie suffered because of that myself. Like if you were to say to me, hey, like who could they have killed to make this movie better? There's not a single person that I would have wished had died in this movie to make the movie better. And I think that's an important clarification to make, is that are these people saying, hey, you should have killed this character in order to make this movie better? Because like I'm assuming they're probably wanting some of the main cast to have died, whether it be one of the Carpenter sisters or the other siblings. I'm assuming they're wanting one of them to have died because they had survived, the prior installment. So I don't know. I don't think it would have made it a better movie. I think it was honestly a good setup to sort of a final showdown with the next movie that would have turned out to be like a bloodbath. But of course, we will never know.
Right. And here's my thing. Here's I think this is my thinking where they're coming from, and I can agree with both these points because I think there's 2 points to this. Number one, I think it's kind of what Scream has established, right? It seems like most movies have some form of a major kill in it. So they didn't do that. But I think the second one, and one that I really kind of hold on to the most, is that is his name Chad in the movie?
Yeah.
That it was maybe a little stretch and a little unnecessary to have him survive that attack.
Right.
And to live, and that maybe given what they did, it was just natural that should have been it for him. They didn't need that he survived, especially when you kind of had already done it with his sister, what, Mindy or whatever her name is, uh, where you didn't know whether there for a bit whether she survived the subway thing or whatever, this and that, whatever it may be, that they kind of went to that well twice there, and that if they were going to have him get attacked like that, maybe they should have just let him die instead of going back to that. Oh, surprise, he's still alive. Also, I mean, not to mention, right? We didn't know whether Gail had lived per se or not, given her attack there for a few. So that I think that's maybe what hurt them in it, is that maybe they went to that false kill too many times, because I mean there's like 3 instances of varying lengths, so they kind of went to that, want you to think maybe they're dead, but oh, they're not, and that hey, maybe at least one of them should have maybe died. That by the time it got to the end, it had lost the effect. So I don't know. I don't know that it would have improved the film per se or any of that, but it was just maybe maybe they should have. I don't think it would have hurt the film to go the other way either. So I don't know. And again, we don't know exactly what, if anything, they had planned for a third film. So maybe that factors into it. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? This is just we're just whatever, hypothesizing here. So who knows?
Right.
Who knows? So let's I don't know if it would have made a difference in the film itself overall, one way or another. In that particular film, perhaps it would have impacted. Maybe they would have killed them all off in the last one. Who knows? But I just think the film itself was just kind of blah, and I don't think a major kill would have kind of saved that. Would have kind of given it enough spice. I think the film was okay, but I just think the reveal at the end was of the killer was just a little lackluster compared to what they've done in some of the others, and that's more what impacted it in my view. So
Right.
All right, then let's move on.
Generation Gap.
And this episode, we're going to do Generation Gap. We haven't done this in a few episodes. This is where Ike, being born in 1995, I pick a movie, or I pick a movie pre-95, and Ike picks a movie from 95 and beyond. One way or another, one of us pick first. And then the other party, the other host, they have to pick from their same, whatever I'm trying to say, their same time range. Me being the old guy, you being the young guy, a counterpart movie to it, to kind of counter with maybe the same flavor, the same flair. Obviously, it doesn't have to be exactly a thing. Some of these it would work if you would directly pick a remake, but we, hopefully we can stay away from that a little bit. And again, we're keeping on the resurrection theme, and even going to keep on the Pet Cemetery theme a little bit. And I am offering up to you, Ike, on my end, 1989's Pet Cemetery, which we already spoke of, and of course we spoke of the sequel, as my film. Do you have a 95 or newer film that you can post up for everybody as kind of a spiritual counterpart to 1989's Pet Cemetery?
Yeah, I think so. I think I got something for you.
Yeah, all right, lay it on us.
All right. So this is actually a movie that we have reviewed. It was last year, I believe. Maybe last year. I don't remember now. But I thought about it, like you said, the whole resurrection, that whole genre is pretty vast. But there was one movie that I really liked that we reviewed last year. I don't think it made it into our top fives, maybe an honorable mention, but I really enjoyed it. It was the movie Birth, Rebirth.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that. But it's basically a morgue technician successfully reanimates the body of a little girl, but to keep her breathing, she'll have to harvest the biological materials from pregnant women. So this movie, obviously, it clearly jumps onto that reanimation concept, but it also makes it even darker to what must we do in order to keep this reanimation going? What links do we have to go to? And it's a pretty dark movie. It's really good, though. It's really enjoyable. It also has some very unique commentary that some people would definitely appreciate. The links to which a parent would go to keep their child alive, things like that. There's a lot of great stuff about this movie, but I felt like it was a pretty unique movie, and I think that with Pet Sematary being as unique as it is, there's truly nothing like it, in my opinion. But I think this is right up there with it in terms of uniqueness.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a modern variation, modern version. It's again, like we said, it's not going to be an exact thing, but kind of had that same flavor. So yeah, I can very much see that. Again, Pet Cemetery is a pretty unique concept. I'm not saying it was the first, Stephen King was the first to do this. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure you can go back to folk tales and ghost stories that probably tell the same things, but it is pretty clever and pretty unique. So, but yeah, I do think Birth Rebirth is a pretty decent counter. And yeah, I don't remember when that came out exactly, but yeah, we did. I do remember reviewing that. But frankly, I don't remember don't remember a lot about the movie. So I don't know whether we cared for it or not. And I know I've not seen it since, so
Yeah.
I don't know. Seems didn't stick with me apparently that well. It's like I can remember the poster, which I do that with a lot of movies, I guess. But so there you go. All right. So if you guys are looking for something to watch, pull a double shot and watch Pet Cemetery and follow it by Birth and Rebirth and tell us what you think. Do they flow together and give you that same vibe a little bit? So, all right. That wraps up all of those segments. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we will have news, birthdays, anniversaries, and more. So stick around. Make sure you subscribe to Listen to Their Screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 and Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
Spread the news. Spread the news. Spread the news. And welcome back with the news. All right, starting us off here, we have director Andy Muschietti has said that there is a 3-season plan in mind for the hit prequel series Welcome to Derry. That's pretty bodacious that he already has 3 seasons in mind. But hey, if that is what he is compelled to produce for that, then hey, we'll watch it. That's unique in terms of it being specifically 3 seasons, which means that I think he's got a long game in mind, and I like to see that. So very interested to see where 1 season, much less 3 seasons, takes us into the history of Pennywise, because we know that he's an alien, so I'm assuming it's going to go back all the way to the beginning.
Yeah, I think, and I think part of it I read is not only is it a 3-season plan, but it is a going back in time plan.
Yeah.
Like whatever the first season will be set, whatever, just a bit prior to it, and then if the next season would jump back however many years, several years, the third would jump back even more until I'm guessing that third will really kind of get to the root of it and to the beginning of it, of Pennywise and all that. So interesting. I think it would work. I think there's plenty of story to be told there. I think there's enough material out there from Stephen King to help with this and flesh it out and give it some bones. So I hope he gets the opportunity to make all 3 seasons. I hope he gets to see it all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now we're going to drop down to some 28 years later news. This is actually something I sent to Dave in between episodes. I read an article and I was like, well, this is not great, but I guess it is what it is. Cillian Murphy will not appear in 28 years later, but the door is open for him to appear in other installments in the planned trilogy. This is weird because I swear I heard something about him returning from the movie. I feel like we specifically reported on it that he was, in talks to be in one of the movies or something. So I'm guessing that maybe that was either not wholly true, or maybe that he was considering being there as part of like a later movie in the trilogy. I don't know, but I'm still excited for this movie. I still think it's going to be fantastic, but I'm a little bummed that we won't get to see our boy Cillian Murphy in this.
Yeah, me too. And I don't know. I'm always so skeptical of stuff, though. I don't know, but maybe not. Maybe I just try to read into stuff too much, and and try to that these everybody's trying to get the jump on social media leaks and whatnot, and
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me being hopeful, but so now in retrospect, like knowing this now, do you still feel comfortable with 28 years later being our most anticipated movie of the year?
I think so. I think that the movie and the series thus far still has a lot to offer, with or without Cillian Murphy. You know what I mean? Like 28 Days Later is obviously, I think 28 Years Later is going to be a very good movie. It's got a very good cast, so I'm not like wholly worried about it, being bad or anything. Do I wish that Cillian Murphy were in it? Yes, but I don't think that that is going to be the catalyst to it being a good movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, it is a little bumming that he's not going to be in it, but it really doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really dampen my excitement for the movie that much. It's not. I wasn't excited for it because of him per se. It was the movie itself, because the trailer really, it looks decent to me, and I'm hopeful. So it doesn't really dampen my excitement. Would it have been nice? Yeah, it would have definitely been nice, but it doesn't really squelch a lot of my excitement for it. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now, for some good news, Scream 7 is now officially in production. The movie is scheduled to release February 27th, 2026. We talked a lot about Scream, so we won't go like super deep into this, but obviously we're both excited for this. We're both very, very ready for this movie to come out. We're hoping for the return of Stu Macher. I feel like that's been like our prediction for every single Scream movie up until this point. But what is it that they say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So we're going to take another shot at this and say third time's a charm. But yeah, we're super stoked for this. I wish it was coming out this February versus next February, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah, and it's so odd to me. It feels like we've been doing this for whatever going on 3 years or whatever it may be. And I feel like we have talked more about the Scream franchise than anything else, because as long as we've been doing this, it feels like there's always been Scream movies in production in various stages or whatever. So it has been a roller coaster ride, because it has been excitement, some disappointment, some excitement, some okay, not too bad, and then it's like you pull everything out from under us, and we don't know what's going on, and you feel chaotic, like the roller coaster cars off the carts, off the rails, and it's like, oh, okay, now you're bringing back Nev Campbell. So, it's like this is even more exciting. It's just been such an emotional ride,
Yeah.
and it's like I am excited for it, but it's like I'm almost to the point where it's like I'm so exhausted. Let's just get here so I can see this, so I can feel like all this emotional drain has been worth it or not. And I'm just ready for it to get here. Um, I don't know. It's gonna be a long year of anticipation for this, because I you got to think everything's gonna be tightly under wraps, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be tighter than Fort Knox. I mean, they're not gonna let anything out about this movie, especially with just how movie leaks happen these days. So yeah, I'm not expecting anything in terms of strong release information about this until the movie actually comes out.
Yeah, I mean, because it's to the point where, right, it's the franchise alone is a draw, so they don't have to put a lot out, right? It's a Scream movie. Ghostface is going to be in it. They've already told you that Nev's back, Gail's back, whatever. That's enough. They don't have to put anything else out there. I anticipate the trailers and stuff. They're not going to really reveal a whole lot to us. story-wise. It'll, be some cool shots and whatever, maybe some cool kills, but they don't have to give anything else away for this movie to be successful in the initial. So they're, it's just the level the franchise is at. So
Yeah, exactly. They could just say, "Hey, we're going to put this guy in this movie, and he's going to start killing people," and everyone's going to be like, "Hell yeah, I'll watch that." But
yep.
all right, well there you have it. That's our news. We're going to move on to some upcoming birthdays. Starting off strong, we have January 16th, 1948. We have John Carpenter, the master of horror, of course known for his directorial roles of Halloween, The Thing, The Fog, Christine, and many, many, many more. Obviously, John Carpenter is, for all intents and purposes, probably one of the greatest horror creators to ever live and ever grace this planet with his talent. So, big, big, big ups to John Carpenter. He's literally the legend.
No, yeah, I mean, nothing more to say. I mean, you can't say anything more about him. I mean, we could do a whole series of episodes on him and never run out of stuff to talk about and praise the heap on him. So, there's nothing more to add. Everybody knows John Carpenter. Everybody knows John Carpenter. I mean, if you're a horror fan, everybody knows his impact. I mean, you just named what, 4 movies there, and that's just 4. I mean, we're not even, and that's not even delving into the music side. I mean, it's just, come on, dude's next level.
Absolutely. So there you have it. And speaking of legendary directors, obviously he is working his way towards the level of John Carpenter. But we have January 17th, 1977. We have Leigh Whannell, the creator of the Saw franchise, who also, weirdly enough, is the director, I believe. Yeah, director and writer of Wolfman, the movie that is coming out Friday, which we are, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, reviewing next week. But
also had his finger in some of was it The Conjuring and the Insidious, I think, both? I mean, he's just...
He was in the Insidious movies. He plays a character named Specs in those movies.
Yeah, but I think he's had, I don't know, maybe not, maybe I want to say he's had some directing in those series, or at least I mean, it's like his fingerprints are all over everything. It just feels like, and so yeah, quite the talent.
I think you're thinking of James Wan, who did the Conjuring movies, which, I mean, James Wan and Leigh Whannell are, 2 peas in a pod as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. So, still, that doesn't diminish it, Whannell's accomplishments.
No, not at all. I mean, Insidious and Conjuring, both of those movies go hand in hand. A lot of times when people think about modern like ghost movies, they think of the Conjuring and the Insidious movies. And so basically the original Saw creators just said, let's just make 2 of the most iconic 2000s, 10s horror movies of all time and produce those. So there you go. But all right. Now we're going to move on to a leap into the past. We're going to go to January 19th, 1809. Edgar Allan Poe, known as the author of all of his stuff that he's ever made, the Raven, Pit and the Pendulum, the Cask of Amontillado, the Telltale Heart, so many things, Nevermore. But I mean, Edgar Allan Poe, he has a very, I don't know if this is still the phrase people use, but he's very much attached to the zeitgeist of modern pop culture. They literally just made a show about him. What was it called? It was the movie that Mike Flanagan made, or show, and it was about his books or stories. I don't remember. But yes, I mean, he still is an incredibly relevant entity, even in our current, and even within our current society. Even though he is long, long gone, he still is very, very relevant, which is incredible in of itself, in my opinion, at least.
Yep, absolutely. And if anybody if you're a horror fan and you're not venturing into the literary world at all and giving that a shot, you really should. And if you want to know where, some place to start, Edgar Allan Poe is a good place to start. there's some good stuff there. Give that a sample. So
Yeah, absolutely. Also, that show is The Fall of the House of Usher.
yeah, there you go. That's it. Yeah.
Very good. All right, we're going to move on now to January 20th, 1970. We have Skeet Ulrich, who is, of course, known for his roles in The Scream and The Craft, as well as many other things. He's had a pretty relevant role in the hit TV show Riverdale. He plays Jughead's dad. I don't remember his name. But yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic actor, does quite a bit, a lot of con appearances, talks and sees all of his fans. I mean, very, very active in that scene. I've seen him myself at Pensacon a couple years ago. Very, very, very fun guy. Just, joking, laughing, the whole nine yards. Really cool dude. Love to meet him again. And of course, he's Billy Loomis, one of the most iconic killers in modern media.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, even after his death, he's still popping up in some memories of Samantha Campbell. So
That's right.
He was still floating around there some, but that may not be obviously in the next movie, but
Yeah, most likely not. Since I think we may not see the Campbells again, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We're going to move on now to our last birthday this week. It is January 22nd, 1959. Linda Blair, known, of course, for her roles in the Exorcist series, as well as many, many, many other things that she has done. Linda Blair, incredibly talented actress. She's really big into, I think she does a lot of activism now. Specifically, I think something to do with animals, if I recall correctly. Because she was on The Masked Singer, actually, a couple seasons ago. And she obviously lost pretty soon. She's not a singer. But she, was talking about, she just wanted to do it for awareness and this, that, and the other. But she was a good sport. But obviously, very talented actress. Very, very talented.
yes, and was in an episode of Supernatural as well.
That's right. She was a police detective, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So,
I do recall. That was a good one because she and Dean kind of had a little thing, didn't they?
Her and Sam. It was mostly her and Sam.
Oh, Sam, that's right.
She went with Sam to investigate because, Sam escaped. Dean never got out. I mean, her Dean sent her to get help, but whatever the case may be.
Right, I gotcha. Very good. All right, now we're going to move on to our upcoming movie anniversaries. We have January 16, 2009. We have the My Bloody Valentine remake. Speaking of Sam and Dean, this has our boy Dean. I'm totally blanking on his real life name for some
Jensen
reason.
Ackles.
Jensen Ackles. And I like the remake. I think it's a fun little movie, and it's I think it's a worthy remake of the original.
Yeah, it is. As far as remakes go, it's a pretty good one. So yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I'm a little partial to the original, but then I am a little partial to the remake because of Jensen Ackles.
Yep.
But trust me, Jensen Ackles is not enough to get it over with me just on its own. I tried to watch Devour, it didn't work, and but no, it's pretty good movie.
There you go. All right, now we're going to move on now to January 19th in 1996. This was a mere, 5 months after I was born. We have From Dusk Till Dawn, a classic vampire tale. This, of course, has a lot of names in it, including, Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino's in this, Salma Hayek. All the regulars in a Robert Rodriguez movie, Danny Trejo, Cheech Marin, all those guys. I don't know why I know so many people from Dusk Till Dawn, but I do. But yeah, it's a good one. It's been a long time since I've seen these movies, so that'll have to be on my list of rewatches to come up here.
Yeah, me too. I haven't watched it in a while, but it is definitely fun. Man, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Good watch.
Yeah. All right. We're going to move on now to a more recent movie on January 19th of 2024. We have Founders Day. Founders Day, of course, was I believe came out after Thanksgiving, and it came out in January. Yep, 2024, and Thanksgiving came out in Thanksgiving 2023. Um, yeah, I remember seeing the trailer to this movie, and I was like, yeah, this seems like it's copying Thanksgiving. And it was a little similar, but also extremely different. And this is actually it was okay. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, we reviewed this, but again, I don't remember a lot about it. Um, I just don't. I mean, I don't know. For some reason, it didn't stick with me that well as well. I mean, I love Thanksgiving, but yeah, I don't know. This one didn't stick with me as well. But I don't know. It's out there. It's a movie.
Yeah, that's right. It's a movie. It exists,
It's a year
but
old.
that's right. It's a year two. Well, yeah, it's a full year old now. Wow, look at that. All right, we're gonna move on now to January 21st, 1983. We have The House on Sorority Row.
Yeah.
Um, I have not seen this movie. I'm assuming that this is something along the lines of like the Babysitter Massacre or something like that, Sorority House Massacre.
Yeah. Kind of your typical little 80-ish cheesy slashery type movie. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure this was remade at some point. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's enjoyable. I like it.
There you go. I'll have to check that out too. And then our last anniversary for this week is January 21st, 2000, The American Psycho, or I'm sorry, just American Psycho. Um, I've seen this movie. It's pretty good. I've heard the book is pretty good too. I've been trying to get my hands on that, but our local library does not have it. Um, but American Psycho. It's one of those movies that I feel like a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of people want to be like Christian Bale's character, but you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, no. And movie will totally make you think Huey Lewis in a whole new way.
True. Huey Lewis in the news. But all right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up our anniversaries there. Not too much else to talk about except for some upcoming releases. As mentioned previously, Leigh Whannell's The Wolfman comes to theaters on January 17th and is described as a family at a remote farmhouse is attacked by an unseen animal. But as the night stretches on, the father begins to transform into something unrecognizable. We will, of course, be reviewing this on our next episode, as hinted at previously. But yeah, I think we're both pretty excited about this. Obviously, Leigh Whannell is a very talented director and writer, so his expertise will be on display here. But also, he has very great source material to work from. This is, of course, a remake of the Universal horror Wolfman, and of course, there is no shortage of werewolf movies out there to pull from and inspiration from. So, yeah, I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, me too. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping, that he does pull, but does put some, modern take, gives us, that classic modern take on it. So, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm very trusting of him. So, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have another movie coming out here. Steven Soderbergh's Presence releases in theaters on January 24th and is described as a family becomes convinced they are not alone after moving into their new home in the suburbs. I feel like Steven Soderbergh, I feel like I've seen a movie of his before, but I feel like he's kind of like a well-known, he's an established director, writer type deal. So I feel like I've heard a lot about him, but I don't know if I've ever seen a movie of his, or if I have, I'm not totally sure what I would have seen.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. He is a big director, big filmmaker, but yeah, I'm not familiar enough with his work to know what I have seen of it. But this movie does sound very intriguing, and it's getting some hype. So I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was just looking at his IMDb, and I don't really see anything that I would have seen recently. Oh, I guess I've seen the movie. It's called Unsane. So I have seen that movie, but That was like in 2018, so that was what 7 years ago. He directed Magic Mike, so that's something. Oh, he also directed Contagion. I think that's where I probably know him from the most because that's actually a really good one. Contagion. That's a solid movie.
Yeah.
But
What? Not a Magic Mike fan?
I can't say I've ever watched the movie. I do know like a lot of the people who are in it. Like obviously Channing Tatum. I know Matthew McConaughey's in one of them. Kevin Nash is in one of them. But I can't say that I've ever seen that movie. No.
It is pretty funny.
I've heard it's actually pretty funny. I've heard that the other two aren't as funny, but that this one is like pretty comedic and like it's a pretty good time. That the male dancing is just an added part of it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, hey, that is all we have for upcoming releases. So we've covered our news, birthdays, anniversaries, and releases. We'll go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, make sure you keep your ears peeped, and I'll keep an eye out for any of the undead as we review Lizzie Lazarus. So stick around.
Hey, Bruiser buddies, I want you to listen to Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty. Every week, he has the roughest and toughest interviews in the podcast world today, with the best guests you could ask for. There's no bums on this show. Let Dave Dynasty be your podcasting tag team partner and listen to Wrestling Nostalgia while drinking beer, smoking cigars, and busting heads. Just look it up on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe today, because the Bruiser said so.
Hey ho, everybody. Subscribe to the Pinhead Pod, the Ramones fan podcast, bringing you interviews, news, deep dives, and much more. Look it up on your favorite podcast platform. That is Pinhead Pod. All right, and welcome back here on Listen to Their Screams. It is review time, and we are reviewing Lizzie Lazarus, which is out now, and it is on Screambox. It was written and directed by Aviv Rubenstein, starring Leanne O'Shea, Omar Mascati, Megan Ostrich, and many more. Actually, not many more. That's pretty much the extent of the cast. There are some others, but that's it. Those three are pretty much the extent. And you know what? Again, we're going to be spoiler free. So that does keep the reviews a little more in check, where we don't ramble as much. But I have to say that you know what? I enjoyed the movie. It was fun. I thought for a bit it was a little slow moving, but I thought that the two, I think it was the Leanne O'Shea and Omar Mascati played the two main characters. I think Megan was the one that played Lizzie, if I'm remembering right, but I could be wrong. But anyway, the two non-Lizzie characters, because Lizzie was in pretty much the entire movie, but she was kind of just getting carried and drug around. And the other two, though, I thought they were really entertaining enough and had a good chemistry and a good back and forth that it was interesting and it was fun. They tried to add a couple spots to give a little tension, from what they were doing. It was okay as far as, it didn't really add a lot of tension. But it gave you a little bit. And but I kept wondering as I watched it, this was going on. I thought, what's going on? Because the description of the movie and everything else talks about this Native American burial ground where, supposedly people can be resurrected. And I'm like, so are we not going to have a resurrection? Are we not going to have even to get to that point? Because it just felt like there for a bit, it was never going to get to that point of finding out. And, but it ultimately did. And, I did have a little bit of a hunch where something was going, where it was going a little bit. And it did go there, where I thought, but when in retrospect, when it's all said and done, the some of the reasoning, some of the little background of things that they gave in retrospect after it were really good, right? Some of their, I don't want to say anything to give it away, but some of the things that were in the movie that you missed were they were fairly clever, and they worked. And so it was, it was a fun movie. It was an interesting movie. Nothing that I would call super over the top spectacular, but it was definitely an enjoyable movie and one that, I don't know that I would be that heartbroken somewhere, given some time or whatever, that I wouldn't mind rewatching it again. I was very captivated by the female lead, who had, who was in the movie was Lizzie's sister. Because she was, I know whatever she was written for her was very, very clever. But the way she delivered it, you just believed her. You believed that she was just ad-libbing all this stuff, and this was stuff she truly, truly felt. And it was just, she was really, just really clever and really catchy. And that's what I said. The interactions between the two were good. It was like a witty back and forth. They had good comebacks for each other. When they had to transition to different things, they did it well. It's not like they weren't forced. It just felt very natural, like two people in a situation, hanging out, conversing. And it didn't really feel forced to me. Now, in the scopes of horror, being a horror film, it lacked a lot of horror, until till the end. Like I said, they tried to add some tension. It wasn't really horror based tension, but they're literally, I'll say three quarters, but it might even been more of the movie. I wouldn't even say that there was much of anything to resemble a horror movie at all. But it's not to say it was a bad movie per se. I just don't know that overall it was a spectacular. I'll even go as far as if you're just judging it based on a horror movie, I don't even know if it was really even an adequate horror movie, because it just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe my perceptions of horror are so different, so stuck in the past. Maybe I just want more from it, a little more consistency. And this is what it is. I know horror is so splintered. There's different types. I get it. But it was, I thought it was a fun movie. I didn't regret watching it. And again, it's one of those solid Screambox type movies that when you're paying for this platform every month, and you see this, you're like, okay, well, I watched this. I got my money's worth from it this month, because this was a good enough watch that, I didn't mind paying whatever it is you pay for Screambox to watch it, that alone. So, it's what's great about this. And that's not even taking into account the other stuff, but that's what's great about these platforms, right? Because a movie like this, who knows? We said it before, right? This struck me as a straight to DVD type movie, and it's not in a bad way. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but because it just wouldn't. This wouldn't have had a theatrical footing. It just wouldn't have worked. Wouldn't have drawn. Wouldn't have got screenings. Just wouldn't have happened. There's not enough screen time for a movie like this to get it. So thankfully there is, something like Screenbox out there where people can see it. So, again, I wouldn't define it as an over the top horror movie. I wouldn't define it as much of a horror movie at all till just the end. But it was a fun, enjoyable enough little movie in general. So, Ike, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I do generally agree with everything you say. I do want to add that, or I guess I should say, kind of emphasize something that you said that I 100% feel is that this was not like a strictly horror movie. There were some horror aspects to it. There were, some tension building. But I feel like this movie did sort of miss the mark of what, probably that you and I would determine our horror, and like you said, we might just be so skewed and out of touch with like how horror maybe is or should be, or I don't know, because we're kind of used to like the more slasher side or just scary side. Because this movie wasn't overtly scary. This was definitely a slow build. And like you said, I did get a little lost at points just because I felt like it was moving too slowly.
It was, yes.
And as someone who, like, for instance, who loved In a Violent Nature, that movie's really slow. There are a lot of really slow things, but there's always something happening. I kind of felt like this movie was, maybe not to that same level, but it felt like there was like not a lot happening at parts, and it just wasn't quite enough to keep me fully engaged. Now, I will say, and this is something that you said again that I really, I could touch base with, is that, hey, the dialogue was immaculate in this movie. For a movie that probably, I mean, this felt like Clerks level dialogue to me. For people who have never seen the movie Clerks, the dialogue in Clerks, it just seems very natural for the time, at least. And it seems just very, like, hey, this is just two people having a conversation, very conversational, dialogue. This felt like that. It just felt like this seems like a normal thing. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're carrying a dead body through the woods, so it's not entirely normal, but the conversation almost felt normal. It kind of lulled you into sort of like a sense of security because you're just listening to two people talk. They're acquaintances. They're kind of mourning the loss of this other person, if you will. And they're kind of coming together and having a conversation and having dialogue about that person. So it just seemed very natural, very fluid, and very fun. And like you said, it seemed like this character believed everything they were saying. They were a little bit of a conspiracy theorist buff, and definitely that was fun for me. I like hearing, what were the conspiracy theories in the 1990s, before I was born. I know the conspiracy theories of the 2020s. I can talk to you all day about that, and frankly, they haven't evolved too much. Conspiracy theory is still a conspiracy theory. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed, that part of it. And then, like you said, it had sort of a lead up and a, big, exposure. And, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is what's going on. And, it was interesting. I was able to get with the groove eventually. There was a part in the movie towards the end, about 30 minutes before the end of the movie, there's a scene specifically. And I don't think that I'm not going to say it because it might ruin part of it, but the main woman, the redhead, I believe that was Leanne O'Shea's character, Bethany. She makes a statement to Eli that immediately clued me into what actually was happening. And then after that, it was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, but it was a fun movie. It was enjoyable, a little slow at parts, but I think it was very redeemed by the just absolutely amazing dialogue and the way it was delivered. Fantastic performances all around. And like you said, the actress who played Lizzie, as a dead body, did fantastic. She looked very dead. But I think that pretty much sums it up. It was good. It was a little slow at parts, but hey, it was not super duper long. That's another thing, is that it wasn't some really long 4-hour movie. It was an hour and a half, almost on the dot. So I can't say that it was too long. It was perfect length, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you could have gone any longer with it. It would have really killed it. So let's rate this. Here's the thing, man. I'm conflicted because I'm of two minds here. I'm of the mind of, well, just taking the movie for what it is and what I would give it. But then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We're a horror podcast, though. So do I need to keep it in check a little bit because of the fact that, as far as it being portrayed as a horror movie, that it doesn't deliver on that field the way I'd want. It does deliver in other ways, but not horror ways. So, I mean, because literally 3/4 of the movie, at least, I don't find anything that I would define at all as a horror movie. Nothing. There's nothing, just nothing that's horror related at all to me. So I don't know. So I don't know. What I'm going to do is just, I'm just going to say, oh, to hell with it all, whatever. I'm just going to give it just a flat out 3 out of 5 screams right up the middle. Because, I did get some enjoyment out of it. I don't think I would go any higher any way you look at it, no matter what. If I was basing it purely as a horror movie alone, it might knock it down a half a scream just because of that lack. But I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to give it the 3 screams out of 5 because it had its fun parts. You know, I think the ending was pretty decent. Even if you did know what was coming, if you were paying attention and did have an idea what was coming, it still delivered okay. And there was a brief, you know, a satisfaction to seeing it saying, "Oh, yep, here it goes," and it paid off well enough. And but I don't think anyway I would judge it, I would go higher than a 3 anyway. So I'm just going to give it a 3 out of 5 screams for good old Lizzie Lazarus. Ike, what would you give it?
No, I think I kind of have to agree with you there. This was a very middle of the road movie. I think this was sometimes when we rate movies, like you said, we kind of have to determine: are we going to go? Are we going to crash out? Are we going to say, you know what? Nope, today's the day. No, but no, I think that this movie just enough scrapes by on the concept of it being partially or a somewhat horror that I feel comfortable giving it a 3 out of 5. There are horror elements. It is enjoyable enough. It's something that I would potentially rewatch if given an opportunity, or if they ever put out like a director's commentary. I might snag that and watch that or something like that. But it's not so above and beyond that I'm like, oh, yep, this is going to be on my top 5 of 2025. No, it's just all right. It's just right up the middle. 3 out of 5 is where I'm ranking it as well.
Yeah, and it's a movie that I'd tell someone to give it a watch. Um, because it's like I said, it's fun enough. Now, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to get Screambox. Tell me some horror movies on there that I should really get to watch." This wouldn't jump to the top of my list if they're specifically asking for a horror movie. So I don't know. I know it's a weird mincing of words. I get it. Maybe I'm being overthinking the term horror. I have a pretty loose view on what horror is, but I just feel like whatever it is, it's got to be more, right? There's got to be something there. There's got to be some tension. There's got to be something creepy, scary, something to give you that feel. And like I said, for the most of this, um, it didn't. It was almost more comedical than anything. So, but I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it is what it is. So
Right.
anyway, there you have it. That is our spoiler-free review of Lizzie Lazarus. Don't be turned away by our weird ass uncommittal rating there at the end because it's very confusing. Well, we didn't know what to do with it, but it's a fun enough movie. If you've got Screambox, and my lord, you should have Screambox, and you're just looking for something to watch. It's a quick hour and a half. You know what? You can't go wrong with this one. It's don't think you're gonna it's gonna be you're gonna be shitting your pants scared, but it's a solid little hour and a half. You're not gonna regret. So, like we mentioned earlier, next episode we will be reviewing The Wolf Man, which I'm hoping. You know what? I'm hoping literally. You know what? Want to make me shit my pants in the theater? Bring it on. I will give you another scream if you get the virus involved. I'm hoping this movie just creeps and freaks and scares the life out of me. Werewolf movies can do that if they're done right. So, but tune in next week to see if Dave shat himself watching The Wolfman. One can hope. How's that for a cliffhanger for you? Thank you to our wives and then all of you listeners and followers for all of your support, listens, downloads, and interactions. Guys, subscribe to us on social media. We're on pretty much all platforms. Just search for Listen to Screams. We're out there. And like we said earlier, guys, interact with us. Give us some feedback. You don't have to just like and just share and just say, yeah, and good job. And I like this. Come on, give us some opinions. Give us something to talk about. We've said this a million times. We're not going to call you out. We're not going to, call you a fool. We do that to each other, not to you guys. So give us a little something to chew on for our Talk to Us internet. We really want to dig in and have something to really go with on that. So, but before we get out of here with our, I guess our resurrection, I don't know what we could call this. Our pseudo episode. Ooh, no, I probably shouldn't go there. Ike, anything you want to add?
Well, we are firmly in the new year. We are quickly approaching month 2 already. It's crazy to think that we are by the time this has come out, we are over halfway through the month of January. So we are quickly approaching new territory as we continue to venture on through the wonderful unknown of 2025. For anybody out there who is having a rough new year already, hey, we're sorry to hear it, but hopefully our episode here today with our, half baked review on this movie was at least a little enjoyable for you. And if nothing else, hey, it is only January. It can only get worse from here, right? I kid. But I hope everyone out there is staying safe and happy.
Before the year.
That's right.
Take into account, man. I haven't been feeling well. I'm still trying to find my footing coming out of Christmas with work and stuff. Just give us a little time to settle into the life routines. I love the holidays. I'm having a little post-holiday blues. It'll get there.
It will.
And
it will.
And if you fully enjoyed and thought, man, these guys are really cranking it out and jamming, then just please ignore my last few minutes of commentary. That's not for you. So
there you go. Also, not to mention, it's always around this time that people get sick too. So like, I'm sure everybody out there is probably getting like the cold or the flu or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't.
Kayla got the cold, so like I'm like trying to like avoid her not to get the plague.
Yes, I haven't been feeling well at all here lately, and again, it just cracks me up. It gets into the 40s here, and I feel like I'm absolutely freezing cold. And yeah. But anyway, this is not a boring ass weather podcast, so
Nope.
we'll leave that for old guys sitting on park benches. So,
That's right.
So once again, next episode we will be reviewing The Wolf Man, which every werewolf movie, I always get Werewolves of London stuck in my head. I don't care what the movie is.
Ooh,
I don't care.
London.
I don't know why. That song just always, I don't know why. It's a catchy tune. Maybe that's why.
That's right.
But anyway, so until then, wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and always have many pleasant nightmares.